Hey everybody, how are you? It's Dimitri Panos here again for yet another episode, a fantastic episode of KDM. What does KDM stand for? Well, it's short for the digital code that goes into your digital projector so the movie can play on the big screen of your movie theater. That's one thing that KDM is. But the other thing that KDM is, it stands for Kit Dimitri Movies. Kit being Kit Bowen. Hi, Kit. How are
Hi.
you?
And D
How's
meaning Dimitri Panos.
Demetrius, that's sort of me. And M standing for movies. And this is a brand new, well, fairly new movie review
Fairly
show in which
newish,
Kit
yes.
and I discuss, and we will take sort of kind of deep opinion, thoughtful dives into a movie, whether they are good or bad. So, and then occasionally we'll do a very special episode of KDM. And so please keep on a lookout for them. But today's movie is the Blumhouse's next movie called Five Nights at Freddy's, a horror movie of sorts that Kit and I got to watch together, which
Yay!
is really, yeah, which is always a special occasion. So we're going to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's today. Hope you enjoy the conversation. There may be some spoilers, FYI, just letting you know ahead of time, so that if you haven't seen the movie, you know this right off the top. You can just hit pause, watch the movie, come on back, and watch the rest of our show, get our opinions, form your opinion as well, and share your opinion on our YouTube page. We leave the comments wide open, specifically for the idea of you fine folks to leave what you thought of the movie, what you thought of the show. We greatly appreciate it. So, Kit, as I always love to do, start off ladies always first. What were your thoughts of Five Nights at Freddy's?
Well, the premise basically is, I mean, in a nutshell, this sort of troubled young man is desperately looking for a job to take care of his little sister. He's had sort of a traumatic event happen in his life, and I guess can we give that away? I don't.
Sure,
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
okay. So
You know what? I said
he's
spoiler free. So...
haunted. He is haunted by the kidnapping of the abduction, I should say, of his younger brother during a camping trip when he was supposed to be watching him, and he actually sees the little boy being taken away in a car, and he's haunted by that and desperate to find out who it was who took his little brother. Jump to he's taking care of his little sister. His parents have now both the mother has died, and I think the dad looks like he's just MIA or something. I'm not sure, but so he's tasked with taking care of this little girl, and she's very precocious and not very communicative, and loves to draw pictures, and that's sort of her outlet. And she has imaginary friends that she talks to. So there's that. So after his latest he is fired from his latest job, so he goes to see this career counselor played by Matthew Lillard, who says, look, I don't have a whole lot for you, but I do have this one job that you might not want to do it, but here it is, the night job, and you have to look after this rundown, abandoned, like Chuck E. Cheese type place called Freddy Fazbear. Is that it? Freddy Fazbear? Is that what it was?
Fazio, something, yeah.
Something like
Yes.
pizzeria.
Yes.
So it's one of those old school 80s places where the animatronic animals are on the stage singing songs, and you play
Freddy,
games.
yeah, you are correct. It's Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Yeah.
So, get the, like Chuck E. Cheese, you get the, yeah, you have the alliteration.
So from the trailer, I'm
F.
sure we're not giving too much away. Clearly, these animatronic animals are either possessed or something, because they come alive randomly and kill people. So the job really is basically job really is basically, to watch this place so that nobody, can come in. And I suppose if you do your job and keep your head down, you can survive. But of course, things don't go as planned. And his little sister ends up kind of becoming involved. She has sort of a connection with these creatures, these animatronic things. You know what? And that's the basic premise of the of the movie. But there's so much more that got thrown in unnecessarily that unfortunately the movie just didn't know what it was.
It was a concept movie trying to find its concept.
Exactly.
So kind of,
So
right?
it had just so it wasn't very effective in my opinion. I mean, there were some creepy parts to it. There was some, the animatronic stuff, you're gonna think about Chuck E. Cheese. I did. The many times that I went to Chuck E. Cheese as a young mother, and those things were always kind of creepy to me. But yeah, so that kind of a concept was interesting, and that's probably one of the reasons why it seems, like it might be a pretty effective little thriller, little horror film, but it just didn't deliver. It just couldn't. It couldn't find its way. It was a really poorly written script. Josh Hutcherson, I love him. I think he's great. But this didn't do him any credit. He hasn't done anything a little bit, but yeah, this didn't help him at all. I mean, I felt his pain, as this older, as a person who is haunted by the abduction of his little brother. The little girl was good. I kind of liked her, but again, nothing really to stand out. There, Mary Stuart Masterson, who I haven't seen in a long time. I think we both of us said, "Wow, what's the last thing she's done?"
Mm-hmm.
Kind of plays sort of the aunt who wants to take the little girl, and
yeah, and I leaned over to you. She's still, and I mean this totally complimentary. She's still
rocks and
rocking
bangs.
those cute bangs. Like I was like, oh my God, yeah. I mean, I just kept on going back to Some Kind of Wonderful.
Oh yeah, that was a cute haircut.
Wicked, but she still is rocking the cute
Yeah,
bangs. So yeah,
but she's kind of a bad guy in this.
kind of.
Yeah, I mean, because then it just starts to devolve into this about child abduction, what happened to these young kids who went missing in the 80s at Freddy's, and they were trying to find these kids. And then you've got this young cop played by Elizabeth Lale, who you were asking me where is she from. I don't know if you watched on Netflix the series You.
No.
Oh, well, that's where I recognized her from. She was the in the first
I figured
season.
you would figure that out.
So yeah, so she's kind of she's sort of the exposition character. So she tells us kind of what's going on at Freddy's, and
Yeah,
she knows
we
that
have.
these
Yeah,
animatronic things are actually alive, or that whatever.
we have to talk about. We're gonna have to go into detail about this because
Okay.
her character makes no sense either. Even though she's really good, but yeah, go on. Well, yeah.
Okay, well, when you start talking,
Yeah.
we can get more, we can reveal more
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, this is going
But
to be very spoilerish, folks.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, because we can't have a discussion, and it's unfair to really criticize a movie when these factors, factor in to what's going on.
Yeah, so again, this is a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the film, go ahead and click off for now and come back and hear our take on it, and then you can agree or disagree with us. So giving you fair warning right now. But yeah,
Right now.
so apparently these young kids, like 5 or 6 young kids, went missing in the 80s, and it shut down this establishment. And turns out that these little kids are ghosts are floating around at Freddy's, and they're the ones inhabiting the animatronics, and somehow they are being controlled by here's the big spoiler, although it's pretty easy to guess. I think the two of us have guessed it pretty much right away.
Very early on.
Yeah. Matthew Lillard character is actually the real evil guy. He is the one who lured these children and abducted them and killed them and stuffed them in these animatronics. I don't know. It just got so bizarre and stupid to me. It just lost any kind of credibility. Yeah,
Yeah.
even the
I mean,
horror,
hearing you
even the
describe
jump
it, I'm
scares
just
aren't
like, oh,
even. Even the jump
right.
scares aren't even all that great. Um, like, you know, I feel like if they had maybe just stuck with that these things are demonic, maybe, or you know, possessed somehow or whatever, without all that extra BS, then maybe it would have been a better horror film, you know. But the fact that it's all about this one guy abducting these kids, and then the sister, you know, somehow she's connected to it and she knows about it, and her imaginary friends are these ghost kids, and I mean, it just didn't know what it wanted to do, so I didn't really
Hmm.
love it.
Yeah.
Clearly. All right, your turn.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same camp as you. I mean, to me, it wasn't the movie that I expected. I'll
Yes.
say this, right? And then as I further thought about it, I go, well, maybe if it was a little bit more like the movie that I was expecting, it might have been a better movie. Ultimately, at its core, it's a ghost story, and it's a ghost story that deals with trauma. Trauma, you know, can make good ghost stories. Okay. And you know, we've seen it in movies like Ghost. Right? When we're suffering a loss. And Josh Hutcherson is this person who's is Mike is suffering this loss. Now, first, I should say too, I didn't have a problem with the performances. Look, I didn't have a problem with the performances, and I really didn't have a problem with her name's Emma Tammy's direction.
Ah.
I just felt, to me, when all was said and done, okay, this is how I liken the movie. I liken this movie to MSG laden Chinese food. Like, you eat it, it tastes really good. Immediately after you're done, you feel full, but on your car ride home, you start to feel, that's not good, right? And you start to get the
Yeah.
headache and everything. When this movie was done, I felt like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
it was fine. That was the word I used about a million times. It was
A
fine.
million times. It was fine.
Um,
I go, wait,
Good for
was it
you.
fine,
Was it
Tanika?
fine? Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
my
It
hair.
was fine. Yeah.
Um, so we we just started, like, I was driving home and I started thinking about it, and I'm like going, none of this makes it, none of it really made sense, especially the second half.
Yes.
I was into the movie up until after that. It was actually kind of a sweet scene when they're you know, Mike is the security guard, the overnight security guard for this place. And you know, he takes his daughter, whose name was Abby, and then Vanessa, the cop, they're there, and this is where we learn that Abby has a connection to these animatronics, to these bears, to these creatures, these animals,
Yeah.
that I likened to a bit of Country Bear Jamboree and the Banana Splits.
Yes.
That's why, you know, and then at the end we throw in Scooby Doo, because it literally was an unmasking.
Yeah.
But that scene, I was like, because it sets up the fact that this is a ghost story, right? And it was kind of like, okay, so okay, I understand the kids that Mike is like Carl Jung. He's very big into dreams. There's a psychology to dreaming, and he studies this, and he tries to go back to that time period where his brother was abducted. He feels like he's seen who did it, and
Right.
so he's trying to figure it out. So there's the trauma aspect,
Right.
and here we are learning that these 5 kids who were abducted and killed, the cause of the place to close down, they somehow now inhabit the animatronic creatures there, they connect with Abby, but on a childlike, sweet level.
Yes.
Like they're very benevolent. And I was like going, oh, okay. So far, I'm buying into this concept. After that scene, however, things just unravel so quickly that in nonsensical forms. You mentioned it earlier about, so Matthew Lillard's the bad guy. He's also connected to the one who abducted Mike's brother. And it's never explained. He somehow has control over the ghosts in the animatronics. They don't explain how, other than a childlike drawing that's on a wall. Like, they just don't explain anything. It's like,
no.
How? Wait, what? And I'm like, wait. First they were like good, and now,
well, they're only good to the people who they like, basically. So, before they have the nice little scene with the little girl, there are these people who are trying to discredit Mike, and
that part was easily, but that part was easily understandable.
Yeah,
they trespassed. They were trashing the place. This is their home. I get it. They're protecting their home. Well, they liked Mike. They liked Vanessa. They liked Abby. And then all of a sudden they were evil, and they were trying to kill or make Abby one of them, and they were going to kill Mike and then Vanessa. And then you find out, here's the other part too. Then you find out that Vanessa is the daughter to Matthew Lillard. And it's apparent that Vanessa knows the evil that her father has done, and she's a cop. And yet, okay, so then why didn't you arrest him? Or why didn't you turn him in at the very least? Like, you're the daughter, you feel at least an anonymous 911 call. Like, why are you letting this happen? Like, you know what's going on here.
Yeah.
Like, that stymied me. Like, I thought about that going, she's a cop. Like, and she knows what's going on here. And yeah, the last half of the movie really unravels. And then, of course, like you did mention, Mary Stuart Masterson, who she was Aunt Jane, and she was like evil.
Yeah.
She wanted to try to take little Abby away from Mike.
Yeah.
And bring her into her own family. And she had a family, and she is at their apartment, and she gets killed. We see that she gets killed. It's mentioned that she gets killed, and yet later on in the movie, Mike and Abby just go back to the apartment, no body, no nothing, as if nothing ever happened in the apartment.
I know. We both said the same time. But what about the ants?
What happened to Auntie Jane? Like, what happened? Like, wait a minute. Like, she had a family too. Like, is she what is going? Like, I never. It just made me say to myself, do they no longer have they stopped reading scripts in the studio system and just film like first drafts now? Is that where we're at? Like, they don't even bother? Because there was a good concept in this movie. It was in there.
Yeah.
And it could have played out. It could have played out really well. And it lost me. It fell off a cliff so quickly. All it needed was a couple of passes, and all it needed was some creative executive, somebody to have read this script and to have given some notes to say, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't work. Like, how does she, a cop, not knowing what's going on, not do anything? Like, that was never explained. Okay, how does this person who controls these ghosts, how does that happen? And apparently he created the animatronics as well. like, is this sort of like a Chucky thing?
Right.
Like a Child's Play thing? Like, what's going on here? And I was just really amazed that this version of the script, they decided to like greenlight it, not take any notes, and it just seemed to be filmed as is. Again, we talked about this. Emma Tammy as the director. Look, I love the fact that I love female directors who can go into directing horror movies. I
Mhm.
think it's great. It's a great opportunity to see fresh voices. You could tell that Emma really was keen on the trauma aspect of this movie, which again I felt was unique and different from the point of view of a dad.
Yeah.
No, not a dad. He wasn't a
Well,
dad,
I
but
actually, that was kind of one of the things that disappointed me a little bit. I was like,
what was that?
why couldn't he have been her dad? I mean, I
Mm,
guess, because of the story
she
and
seemed
everything, but
she seemed kind of very young to be his sister,
yeah.
you know. But and again, the beginning of the movie, they set things up nicely because you said at the beginning he lost his job. Well, he was a security guard in a mall. He was keeping an eye on some kid who looked to be alone, and somebody came up to the said kid and forcefully took him away and forcefully
Yep.
was removing him from the mall. He chased down the culprit, beat
Excuse
him
me.
to
Thank you.
bless you. In Greek, when somebody sneezes and somebody's talking, you say alethea leo, and that means I'm telling the truth. It means you're telling the truth when somebody sneezes when you're talking. So
Oh,
that's a
there
little
you
bit
go.
of Greek. There's a little Greek for everybody. So we're multicultural here. Um, but yeah, I was like, oh, and the person forcefully taking this kid ends up being that guy, the kid's father, whom he just beat to a pulp. As the movie goes along, you understand
Yeah.
why
Yeah. I
his
know, I got
raging
that right
has,
away. Yeah.
yeah, he has, he's got issues. I had no problem with that at all. No problem with that drama. No problem with the ghost story. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Everything else after that scene made zero sense
Yeah.
to me. So yeah, it was too bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you
Because you're
ruined
right.
a good concept.
They had the essence of a good story, and they just ended up trying to make I actually think that it wasn't a first draft. They probably went through many drafts, and it's like,
Do you think
oh
they
yeah.
couldn't have?
I just think that
They,
throwing in this and throwing in that, it always is, it's a detriment to the to the thing. And there's many movies that suffer from that they're trying to put too much into it, right? Rather than just keeping it simple. Now let's talk about Bloomhouse for a second, because Bloomhouse
sure,
um produced this, and there was a time when Bloomhouse could do no wrong, kind of like Pixar.
sure.
They just, Jason Blum just he knew horror. He partnered up with some great talent and turned out some
100%.
amazing movies. But now I think they've
So,
absolutely hit the ceiling. I mean, they're no longer, I think this, and there's been a few others that come out recently that haven't been so great.
yeah, it's, I
Yeah,
mean,
see, here's the thing. There's 3 writers for this.
well,
That's
don't forget,
never a good sign.
but I also think they're crediting the person who wrote the video game.
Oh,
So the other thing too is that this movie is based off a video game. This is going into the movie was the first I'd learned of that tidbit, that fact. I have not played the video game. I didn't know it was a video game. Um, so
yeah, so there's
there is that element.
three people who actually wrote the screenplay, including the creator of the video game. Plus there is 2 other people who put in screen story by. So, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? So there was a lot. It has never failed for me when I see that there's more than a couple of writers on a film, you know, that just
Right.
shows me and tells me that it's just, yeah, they don't have it. So
Right.
And usually the movies suffer for that. So I have a feeling that's what happened
Yeah,
on this as
but
well.
but it's funny what you were saying about Blumhouse. Blumhouse was taking a corner of the market, that horror
Hmm.
genre. I mean, A24 has kind of slipped in there as well.
Hmm.
And I would say this about Blumhouse. Where Blumhouse succeeds is that they make their movies like for $2. And then their movies end up making, like, even if they make their movie, even if the movie makes $50 million, it's a win for them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. And again, they've had more, they've had more hits than misses, but
Hmm.
lately, with the exception of, I would say,
Yeah.
Megan was really, I enjoyed Megan.
Yeah.
That was a very good movie. Um, we talked The Exorcist Believer, in which they
Oh,
spent,
right.
what was it, $200 million to or Universal to buy the rights to The Exorcist so that they can
Hmm.
make these other movies. And then they have this movie, Five Nights at Freddy's, which, it's we don't know yet what the reported or what the estimated grosses are going to be for the weekend, but it does look
Right.
like that'll be promising. And again, when you're spending, when you're spending less than 10 million to make a movie and your movie makes 30, 40, 50 million, and then in
Hmm.
some cases they've had $100 million movies, like, that is a business model in which Blumhouse, like,
Right.
that's how they survive. And they made the deal with Universal, so they have their distribution in there. And
Yep.
it's just really interesting to me because, again, they put out some movies that weren't that good, but because they were so cheap,
Yes.
they made money back.
Yes.
The deal on this particular movie, this was supposed to be a movie that, I mean, it was factored into the deal that it was going to go around the Halloween weekend, and it was going to go day and date as well as theatrical. After watching it, I understand why you would consider going day and date. It kind of reminded me, Blumhouse just put something else directly to streaming.
Hmm.
Um, Totally Killer, I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a Blumhouse
That was
movie.
actually pretty good. I watched it.
No, it was fine for streaming. It was fine. Again, theatrically, I don't think it would have worked. And I just wonder, would I have looked at this movie differently if it was streaming only? But it seems like it's going to pull in um, a decent amount for its opening weekend.
Yeah.
I
Because
just
I
don't
think people
think.
want to go see a scary movie on the weekend, and I do feel like it. Well, first of all, it's got the video gaming, world to tap into, but also, the idea of your favorite, those Chuck E. Cheese characters. Just like I said, it's like that would be a fun thing to go see. Chuck E. Cheese gone
100%.
bad.
100%. And yeah, I don't know. It was, the more I thought about the movie, the more I started to just dislike it more. It's just,
Mhm.
it didn't make sense. And again, it's hard for me to, like, I can't even really pick on the acting because I actually thought Josh Hutcherson was fine. Piper Rubio is the girl that plays Abby.
Mhm.
I liked her.
Yeah, me
I
too.
thought she was very adorable. It never got in the way.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes, this. Sometimes with little kids, they make them out to be like brats,
Yeah.
and they don't clean up until like towards the end. But by that time, they were annoying.
Yeah.
This Abby character was never really annoying, and I thought that this Elizabeth Lail,
Lael.
Lail, Lail,
Yeah.
as the cop Vanessa, she was a very welcome addition. She's too a good fresh face, and like, they were putting these people into a horror movie, which in some cases gets recognition for these fine folk. I don't know what Josh Hutcherson has been doing lately since Hunger Games, I think, was the big one he was in.
Yeah.
But again, it was good to see him, and I commend people who take kind of risks because nobody else is hiring Josh right now. I don't know why. but
Yeah.
they took the risk to put him in this movie along with this Elizabeth Lale, who is a good fresh face. I enjoyed her
Well,
in the
People
movie.
from You will, and that's a really pretty popular series on.
Is it really? Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
take your word. I'll take your word on that. No, absolutely. And then Matthew Lillard is probably one of the more recognizable faces.
yeah,
Scream, obviously,
yeah,
Scooby-Doo, which
yeah.
again was like so ironic, and I wonder if it was done on purpose. I mean, because it
Yeah,
was such a Scooby-Doo ending.
yeah.
The only thing it didn't have was, if it weren't for you nasty kids, I would have gotten away for it.
Meddlesome kids, you
You
meddlesome
meddlesome
kids.
kids, I would have gotten away with this as he's being carted off. But like even his ending, I was like, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. So it's a very fascinating movie. I kind of call it intro horror. Like it's safe horror, meaning a person who's not into horror movies could sit through this movie and not necessarily have their cover their face throughout the entire movie. It's
Yeah.
PG-13, so there is really no gore at
Nope.
all. It's suggested, but it's not there, which is pretty cool. They also took let us not forget the Phantasm cupcake.
Yeah.
Instead of the Phantasm ball, it was a cupcake.
Yeah.
Kind of pretty funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
So if you're not into horror movies, this movie is like really safe. Like you're not going to be grossed out. I mean, if you're a novice to horror, you might find some of it suspenseful. As you said, it kind of felt like you.
Yeah.
There was some scenes that were okay, but it wasn't really suspenseful. I don't think it was the execution. I just think it was the script.
Yeah,
So,
it was absolutely the script, 100%. They just, that's where the failure happened. Everything else was okay. It's just the script failed them.
Yeah, it really did. It was too bad.
So, I mean, what would you give? What would you be your star for this?
Well, you know what? I 2. Like
Yeah,
it
me
didn't
too.
make me angry, but a 2.
2.
It was a 2. Yep.
2 out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah, easily. I give it the same thing. I think we gave The
Well,
Exorcist.
knowing that this is the Halloween weekend, and I have actually been watching a little more horror, just putting it on just to watch it. But this will be a question for everyone too, who we'll just throw this out here before we sign off. What's your go-to horror film to watch? Like when you just want to watch something scary, and especially on a weekend before a big Halloween holiday. What's your go-to scary movie? So I'll ask you, what is your go-to? I mean, is it Halloween?
Hello, look behind me. Just look behind me. 1978's Halloween. It's an annual thing, as well as I love the Universal classic horror movies: Dracula, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, The Mummy, Wolfman, even The Invisible Man. Claude Rains in The Invisible Man is so fantastic. I do love John Carpenter's The Fog. I mean, when you want to talk ghost story, a really good ghost story, The Fog is it. Obviously, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Bang
is another one, right? There's another movie called Ghost Story.
Oh yeah,
which
that's a good book.
It was a really good Peter Straub. Yeah, it's a really good book.
Yeah,
I thought they did a really good adaptation.
I thought so too.
It really works. And Alice Krieg, oh wow, she's fantastic in the movie.
Yep.
So those are some of my go-tos. Monster Squad is another one, but Halloween is definitely my go-to. It's the 1978 Halloween is my favorite horror movie. So how about you, Kate?
Oh my gosh, it's so it just
and you're not a
ranges.
horror person, so I
No, but
love
I know
to
I'm
hear
not,
this.
but I kind of am. I'm not a slasher horror film. I've made this very clear on several of our podcasts. I'm not a slasher horror film. However, let me see. Well, Jaws, if you consider that a horror movie.
I do, yeah, that'd be up there. Sure,
it's a monster movie.
I mean,
that is my all-time favorite movie. I mean, I literally have probably watched it 1,000 times.
Me too.
But I also like The Omen. That's another one that I
Oh
absolutely
yeah,
adore.
Richard Donner,
Love
right?
that movie. I love Alien, actually, and Aliens, but I think, as time goes on, as far as a horror film, Alien is what's really scary to me. But Aliens is fun because it combines the monster, but also with all the action and everything. So
Yeah, I mean they're two very different
they
movies.
are,
I mean
they
we,
are.
we could do a special episode of KDM. They're two very different movies, yet they both excel in their genre. I
Yes,
wouldn't call Aliens necessarily a horror movie.
right.
It is an action movie that has some thriller elements to it, yet where Alien is a horror movie. It's a
Yep.
claustrophobic horror movie, but I also say I did a I guess you could call it a dissertation, whatever. I also throw Alien into film noir. It is a fantastic film
Yep.
noir thriller or horror movie as well, because it really does check off the boxes of what would constitute that would fall into the genre of film noir too.
Yep. Yep.
But yes, Alien's a great.
Yeah. See,
It is a horror
those are
movie
so.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are some of my go-tos. I think that I always will watch when they're on. And sometimes I can't seek out and watch Jaws every time I see it. I'm like, oh, maybe no, come on, I just watched it. I can't do it again. But
If it's on cable or whatever, and I'm flipping through channels and that's on, it's like I toss the remote. I toss the remote very much like Riggs does.
yeah.
And I think it was Lethal Weapon or Lethal Weapon 2. He's
Oh yeah.
flipping channels and the Three Stooges comes on and he throws the remote. That's kind of how I am at Jaws. We didn't talk about The Exorcist. The Exorcist is another
Well,
movie,
but see, that's a movie I don't really want to watch too many times. I've
I know
watched it maybe twice in my
Oh,
lifetime.
really? Okay.
Yeah, it's just too. It's just too creepy to me.
It's a very creepy movie. It affects me too.
It does. It affects me.
And a
So
friend
I
of
can't
mine
watch it too many times.
just wrote a book about it. I think it comes to the root of as to why it's like just had this staying power, because at its core, what makes the horror so horrific is that it's a drama.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is a drama when you think about it.
Yes. Yes.
And those other elements are very scary.
Yeah.
Because of what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's
Do
a
you know
disturbing
another
movie.
I'm going to throw in another movie that I
Yeah.
actually watch, and I think it's underrated. I
Please.
know people don't necessarily think of it as one of Spielberg's greatest, but War of the Worlds with Tom
I mean,
Cruise.
yep. Uh-huh.
That is actually scary. I mean, the aliens themselves are horrifying, and just how it all unfolds. And and Dakota Fanning, I mean, she sells it, man. She really, absolutely, she's what makes it terrifying to me, because I just imagine this poor little girl seeing all of this around her, and her dad trying desperately to shield her and try to save her. I mean, it is. I'm sorry. I think it's a really creepy movie.
I like the movie. My one critique is the son. The son was written. I don't think so. I don't think he was written so
he was a
great.
little
annoying. But since you said War of the Worlds, I mean, I love the original War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
And let's be real, Orson Welles and his players, they did the radio play.
Yes.
That freaked out.
People thought it was real
because they thought it was real, and it happened on Halloween night.
Yeah.
And that to me is great. Oh, another movie, another good horror movie that I enjoy watching, Sleepy Hollow. Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp. That's a good movie. You have a really good cast, Christina Ricci and of course Johnny Depp and Christopher Walken. That's a good. I like it. That to me is one of the best tales of the Headless Horseman.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a good one.
I mean, I could go on forever. There's some great ghost movies. Conjuring, of course, is another one that's very scary.
Of course, The Conjuring,
the original. The rest of them not so much, but that one definitely. Also, the
Agreed.
other one that always just creeps me out is The
Yeah.
Ring.
Oh yeah. The Ring's a good one too. Yeah. And we haven't even we could do a very special episode of
We
the
could.
horror
Well,
comedy movies. Like
oh,
that's another genre in which, of course, Young Frankenstein,
yeah,
the Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. I mean, those movies
yeah,
they're just so fantastic.
yeah.
And they were a perfect gateway to horror too for me, because these monsters as a
Yes,
kid was very scary. But when I saw Abbott and Costello square off against them,
it's the best.
it was like,
Yeah, it's the best.
it's like,
It's the best.
They're great.
It's the same exact thing with me when I was little too. It's like it kind of introduced me to horror in a comedy way, and I remember I watched that, and I watched Creature of the Black Lagoon, and I actually watched it all the way through, and then I went, okay, I can handle scary, I think.
Yeah. I actually just recently watched Creature from the Black Lagoon. I love that movie too. Spielberg, since you mentioned Jaws, Spielberg took many an inspiration from Creature from the Black Lagoon. And if you watch it, I recommend the next time you watch it, think about Jaws while you're watching it, because Spielberg cleverly lifted a couple of the scenes from Creature. You could see his homage to that movie and that it meant something to him. So those are all, I think, fantastic.
All good stuff.
Halloween,
but let us know, people. Let us know in the comments. Let us know what some of your favorite ones are. And obviously don't worry about seeing this one. You can wait on.
This is what I would love to know. If somebody is kind enough to land on this show to see what we thought about Five Nights at Freddy's, perhaps you have played the game. Could you fill us in a little bit about the game and how it paralleled to the movie? But also, fill us in about the game a little bit and what that's about. I'd be very curious as a person who, I have picked up a controller every now and then, but I just have not heard of this. So I really love your take on the movie and the game. So there you go.
Well, Dimitri, this was wonderful as always.
It really was.
I believe we will be returning with our next podcast, the next Marvel movie, The Marvels. I think that'll be our next biggie. Yeah.
Well, the Marvels marvel us.
We'll see.
We'll see.
All
right.
Everyone have a happy holiday, though.
Happy Halloween, everybody. Yeah. And you happy Halloween. It's always such a treat. It's my treat. It's not a trick. It's a treat to be able to sit and watch a movie together with you. I love that. You have a great Halloween. You and your family. Be safe. You too, audience, be safe, because we need you to come back and watch more.
Come back. Come back.
Thanks, Kit. I appreciate it. Come back.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.